Welcome to episode 20 of the Confounded Chronicles. This week was just machining all week, so I have a bunch of machining clips that I'm going to put in here, so you don't have to look at my face. I'm sure looking at my face is interesting, but this is probably more interesting. What I'm doing here is just turning all the tips down. I found a slight discrepancy between the Parker style refills and the Space Pen refills. The body diameters just flared ever so much different, so I had to basically come back through and change a board just ever so slightly to make them work with either style. So that's what I was doing there, and now I'm just cutting the tapers into the tip. This is a good filler and a good point to kind of just ramble about what I'm thinking with the design. I have all the parts of the pen made now that let me... The last part to make is the tail cap. And the tail cap will basically either, if I make the screw cap versions, I make a different tail cap. If I make a bolt action version, I make a different tail cap. And if I make the click version, I make a different tail cap. In the past, I obviously didn't want to make the click version because I don't have the tooling to make it. I need a fourth axis to make it. It's a fourth axis part. I talked about that kind of rotating bolt action a few videos ago. That's my kind of stopgap method between a full-on click mechanism and a bolt mechanism, because it's something I can action machine with the tooling I have. But honestly, from the feedback from you guys through emails and through comments and whatnot, the things you are most interested in is you're most interested in some sort of retracting mechanism. The rotating ring, I'm sure, would be good, but I don't know, it's not as pleasing as a nice solid click. It's something I want. So anyways, I put a lot of work this week while I was machining, basically, to let my mind wander and think of how could I possibly make a click mechanism with the tooling I have, or with the services, what's available and what I have access to. In the past, when I got married to my wife, I wanted an engagement band that would wrap around her, a wedding band that would wrap around her engagement ring. And the way I thought about doing it was I could just design it in CAD and ship it off to a company and get them to print it into a metal. So what they do is they basically print it in wax, and then they lost wax cast it. And I got it lost wax cast it into rose gold, and it fit perfectly. It's really cool because it's an exact fit for her ring, even the slight... it's not symmetrical, or her ring wasn't perfectly symmetrical, so I could design around that. I could design it perfectly for her finger. Really cool, actually very inexpensive. So it's something I started looking more into. I can 3D print in bronze through that service as well, and I'm sure there's other surfaces out there that can let me print into slightly different metals, but the bronze is still a casting method, so the tolerance is decently high. That might work for the printed click mechanism I want, or the click mechanism I want, without having to invest in a fourth axis. It's probably the cheapest option at this point. I thought about getting it printed in wax and casting it myself, but why would I do that when there's a company out there that will do it far better than I'll be able to cast it here? I want to cast it myself because it's really cool, but that's not worth my time right now. It's going to take months to figure that out. So that's an option. The other option is just to bite the bullet and put the fourth axis on the mill. The only thing that, the cost for that isn't even all that high. It's just the time to get that put on and then to kind of wrap my head around the fourth axis toolpath. I'm sure it's nothing major, but once again, it's time. I don't know. It's a couple ideas I have floating around in my head, but both of those will let me, I'm assuming both of those will let me print a click mechanism, and I can just plug that right into the back of the Mark IIIs here, and they'd be good to go as that. Something I'm floating around. I don't know which way I'm going to go about it yet, but that's been on my mind this week, and I thought I'd share it with you guys. The rest of it was spent doing just this, sitting in the nice sunshine. It's still like minus 30 degrees Celsius here, but the shed is wonderful, and when the sun's out, it's beautiful to work. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully next week I'll have a better idea of what I'm going to do and maybe some more footage for you besides me just machining. See you next time.